On this episode of ResiWeek, we are joined by Jeremy Glowacki, Richard Fregosa, Joe Whitaker, and Stephen Bronner to talk about all their favorite things from the past year and what the future holds for 2018. All this and more on our yearly wrap-up show for ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 100, All the Do-Its.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and today is a special show where we will wrap up the year and talk about all the fun things and exciting things that we saw and loved or hated this year, depending who you are. First to join me today is Richard Fregosa. You know him as the principal and founder of Fregosa Design. How are you, sir?
Merry Uncle Richie Christmas greetings to everyone, and Mellow West Coast greetings. Glad to be here. Good to see this cast of characters together to end the year with a bang.
It's going to be a lot of fun. A little crazy, all things considered. Then we have Jeremy Glowacki. He is the editor of Residential Systems, although you just got a bump, didn't you?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, no pay increase or anything like that. Just
fancy titles, though.
Title change. Yeah, we aren't editors anymore. We're content people, so we got those content titles, and I'm in charge of some other people that I didn't used to be in charge of. So you know, it's cool. It's better than a pink slip, right? So
that's true. Yeah, nobody likes pink slips, especially around Christmas. Then we have Joe Whitaker. He is the president of The Thoughtful Home in St. Louis. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Glad to be here again, as always. You know, ResiWeek's one of my faves.
Oh, thanks, honey. Yeah, you got a honey there. And last but not least, coming back into us with lots of Christmas cheer or holiday cheer, however you want to go.
It's Christmas.
I know, but, you know, I'm just trying to be inclusive. Canadian and all. It is Stephen Bronner. He is the president of Pro Audio Georgia. How are you, sir?
I'm outstanding, man. Just enjoying this Christmas season. I'm huge on Christmas. With all the kids and the family around, it's kind of hard not to be. So rocking the Santa hat, repping the Gator Nation, making things happen.
Yeah, and you guys got snow in Atlanta, which is very rare.
We did. They're just now rolling the streets back out. It was really bad. There were profits in the streets. It was bad, man.
Touch and go with that inch and a half for a couple of days.
So in our defense, they were supposed to get a dusting. All the weather channels said we were going to get a dusting, and we got 9 to 12 inches, which for Georgia is literally Armageddon. So we made it through okay. And then yesterday, for no apparent reason, our airport shut down. So Georgia's having a rough winter this year.
Touch and go. I know even up here, though, if we get 9 to 12 inches, that's enough to slow down a lot of people, but not people like me with trucks and four-wheel drive and snow tires. We're fine.
Everybody can't be cool like you, Matt.
No, not everybody, but some people can. All right, guys, this is the year in review. We've had a great year. Again, thanks for coming on all the shows that you guys come on and dedicating so much time to helping making this channel work. Rich, I want to start with you. This year was a big year for a lot of things, a lot of industry companies, a lot of technologies. What hit your mind as kind of the big story, the big thing that got you excited this year?
I've got to say that for me, it was probably 3 items that came up the most for me. I think they've now got a new term for that they're trying to use is the, but.
Uh-oh.
Keeping us in suspense.
Oh, that is like the perfect timing for his screen and his connection to drop. That is fantastic. All right.
Significant push.
All right. You're going to have to start that again. We lost you.
Oh, of course you did.
And we've still lost you.
Does anybody know AV here?
Well, I don't know if it's AV so much as IT.
I know. It's the old joke.
So we're an AV tech in the room?
Yeah.
We've got red bars on you, Rich.
Am I back or did I drop off?
You dropped off completely, but now you're yellow and back. So let's try that again.
Take 2.
Rich, what did you see that excited you this year? Maybe.
Oh, Rich.
I'll come back. Give me a sec.
All right, you'll pop back. All right, let's go to here. We'll start this not all over again. George will have fun. All right, Stephen, let's hear what you saw this year. It was a big year for a lot of tech, a lot of different things. What did you see this year that was most exciting or most impactful to you and your business?
Oh, let's see. To my business this year, the most impactful thing was the final recognition by our industry and our clientele that we need to own the network. I think that is hands down the biggest impact, because up until this year, it was a constant battle. Who's going to own the network? Is it going to be the guy's IT or one of the people's IT guy from work? Is it going to be their kid? Is it going to be them? Comcast, which is even worse. So, this year was the year that clients finally recognize when we tell them, hey, we need to own the network, and this is why. They're like, oh, you definitely need to own the network. I think that there are a lot of huge things happening with network development in our industry. You've got the package certification. This year I picked up my ESCN certification. There are tons of things that we are doing as an industry to expand our network awareness. There's been a couple of articles about network safety, IoT devices, what it means. I think that this year also the other big thing, which is going to sound negative, but it's really not, all the problems that Apple has had, it really knocked a bunch of our clients down a notch. For the last few years, every time something went wrong, it had to be the integrator's fault. It had to be your system. And this year, with companies like Apple and AT&T having as many issues as they had, it has been very eye-opening to our clients that, hey, if a company that size can have that many issues, your company is allowed to have some issues. And I think that it's been very eye-opening to our clientele and for our industry to have major companies like that have a bit of a struggle. And I just had that conversation with a client yesterday, and he very plainly told me, he said, there's been times when you've told me my Apple TV locked up and I really didn't believe you. There's been times when you've told me that my iPhone was glitching and I really thought it was just something with your system. And then you come back with, please read this article. And now I realize, it's not just you guys. You guys have a really hard job. And we gained a whole new respect with several of our clients purely because massive companies are having problems. And I think that this year was a reckoning with a lot of our clients. It's been very, very fulfilling to see clients finally come around and say, hey, you know what? And I tell my clients, we're the great interpreter. We have to take whatever system you choose, whether it's Richie with Crestron or someone else with Control 4 or me with RTI. We have to take these systems and we have to talk to LG. We have to talk to Samsung. We have to talk to whatever amplifier. We have to do this ratio irrigation systems. All these things, we're the great interpreter. So our job is to make sure that everybody else does their job. And this year there was a great reckoning with that. And I think that that's going to help us a lot going forward. One huge thing in the industry personally that happened, which I know this is going to sound a little self-serving, but having someone like Matt and Heather get on the CEDIA board is massive. You guys know that I watch. You guys know that I watch your shows, and I think that Mr. Whitaker said it, and you guys had a discussion about it where you talked about new dinosaurs, and there is something to be said about the fact that we have new, fresh, young blood on the board that can see things from a different angle. We still need the old guys around. Joe's not going anywhere. I just said.
I used to be the young guy. What?
How things change.
We still need the older experience, but I'm going to tell you, having our industry represented by a wide range of age, background, experience is massive. And to me, seeing that we were able to get someone elected of a younger age, a different classification of person, I think that is huge. I like Heather. She's a firecracker. I always have liked her. And, you know, Matt, it's, you know, good to see that, you know, you finally get some recognition. You're an excellent integrator and a great guy in our industry. But the other side of it is we just really needed it. Many times I've talked to other integrators my age and a little younger than me, and we've said it's almost like until you hit 45 or 50, our industry ignores you. Mm-hmm. And they can't really say that anymore. So congratulations to Matt and Heather, and you know, congratulations to our industry. I just think it's been a huge year. Like I said, the networking thing, and then having our industry representation in a new bracket is massive.
All right. Thank you very much. Richard, this year, you know, changed a lot of things in the way that people approach business. We had voice control become huge. We had DIY literally explode. And I realized that both of those aren't necessarily in your wheelhouse, but there was a lot of changes this year. What did you see industry-wise that A, changed, but B, that got you really excited?
I think the biggest thing that occurred, and what I spent the most time thinking about, is that we are able to, ironically enough, as an industry, we've been around for almost 30 years at this point. But we are now able to ride the coattails of the greater tech industry in ways that we haven't been able to before. A perfect example is we've been talking about, you know, 4K and HDR and all of these things that are fantastic technologies that are out there and the challenges that come along with it. But realistically, until a larger player like Apple stepped in and said, 4K now exists, and hey, check out HDR, did it just now start entering into the conversation where people start asking about, as opposed to integrators are having to actively educate the end user and just the industry at large. So I think that there's a lot to be said about we are going to be learning how to work in tandem with the GAFA acronym, you know, the Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon juggernaut that's there, because it's only going to get bigger. I mean, it's not like they are going to be putting less products into the market over the coming years. So I think what that does do is, and to borrow a term from Mitch Klein, is there is the DIY, but there's also going to be the do it with me opening for integrators that are going to be coming out. You know, Amazon Alexa, you know, obviously the stuff that Joe even came out with, you know, with what they were doing with Origin. We're seeing more and more integration. I mean, if you look at all the major controlling manufacturers, all of them have some form of Alexa integration at this point. It's ubiquitous at this point. Now, to the level that voice control is useful, I think that we're still starting out, and we're where we were 25 years ago from an integration standpoint, in that we are just starting to figure out how some of these pieces work together. And I mean, the biggest part is obviously, you know, we've got new technologies that are coming out, and we're still an audio video based industry. So I think now with OLED becoming, I think that the Christmas sales and the Super Bowl sales of OLED are going to skyrocket. I think that we're going to see a huge uptick in terms of 4K and HDR saturation this year, finally, especially in 2018. And I think we're going to start seeing that drive things differently. What that means is all of the associated systems, you know, your video distribution, your displays, your audio, your sources, everything that goes. I think it's an opportunity for integrators in the coming year to be able to grow their businesses in different ways that they haven't done before. And, you know, I mean, that's been something I've been talking about for years, which is, you know, you get away from being a parts supplier and you focus more and more on being a solutions provider.
Very good. I like the way that you brought in the future. And looking to the future, let's go to Joe, who is the dinosaur in the room today, as Stephen pointed out.
You know, I knew that day was coming.
Friends like us, right?
I
We're
just
friends
didn't
like
realize
us.
it was going to be so soon. No, you know, it's funny because, you know, up until Matt, of course, I think I was one of the youngest to ever make it on the board. And in one tenure, I become the youngest to the dinosaur.
The dinosaur.
It's
Ancient.
It's amazing.
Welcome to more salt in your hair than pepper at this point. So yeah.
Hold on. We've all seen Joe's hair. He dyes that stuff. You can tell.
No, but that facial hair, gosh, those grays are
Yeah, get
killing
around
me.
it.
But, you know, now that I'm in the gray hair crowd, you know, a couple of things really stand out to me for 2017, and then moving into 2018 is, I'll get into the technology portion and services portion in a second, but I really think that, you know, 2017 was a year for CEDIA, unlike any that we've ever seen before. You know, whether it have been Emerald, the acquisition of the show, and kind of there being some detraction of that until everything was transparent and everyone was like, oh, you did what? That is amazing.
How much?
Yeah. and then the revenues, the year-end revenues just came out. And, you know, people saw that and said, you made $15 million this year? Yes. A not-for-profit did very well to, you know, line some pockets to really have some money to change our industry. And I think all the other initiatives that went along for 2017 made it a year of CEDIA, whether it was kind of enforcing the brand, changing a lot of the focus on education and making that regional, diversifying the board, getting more involved in government, workforce. All those things happened in a very short period of time. And had a huge benefit to members and non-members alike, especially on the government side. So, you know, I really think for a year, the trade association did amazing for 2017. And I'm expecting bigger things for 2018 with some of the, like you said, you know, these young kids coming on the board. I expect that to really make a huge impact. And bringing some more manufacturers on the board and appointed positions, and really being global, bleeding global, you know, believing that trend. On the tech part, I mean, that's kind of weird and obvious that, like Rich said, this voice control thing that people like me have been tracking for 12 years, whether it have been, you know, EHX, the very last one, 2008. There was a company called Voca that was a Control4 integrated company that had some voice control. And then you had VoicePod. And then you had, you know, it's been toyed with forever, but it took a huge brand like Google and Amazon to push it to the masses to see this is a viable way of doing things. And the growth of that in 27 was massive. In our industry. So my future prediction for 2018 is that we're going to see a little more of something different and less of the same, because 2017, with the exception of about 3 manufacturers, we're all about the skills or the, you know, that portion, you know, soft touching and not really doing any true hardware integration. We saw some of that from Play-Fi, Origin Acoustics, and a couple of others, but very little touching on the hardware side. And I think next year, 2018 is going to be implementing hardware and implementing more than one of the solutions into one piece. That's going to be a very, very big deal. And I think Rich and me predicted this a year or 2 ago, that this last year was going to be the eye-opener for cybersecurity. Maybe not the didn't need you, Rich. It was about a year and a half ago.
We talked about networking, and there was going to be a push. And
it was good.
And ironically enough, at CEDIA, we gave a couple of awards specifically towards the elements of cybersecurity and IoT and prevention. And we talked about once you get more of these devices out there, you now have weaknesses in your network.
Exactly. And as we said, this 2017 was a year that things started to happen. The crack hack and all these other ones that magically happened kind of right at the time they needed to be. They happened while manufacturers like IHG and SnapAV with some of their new overseas stuff and Package and all these guys introduced products that we weren't sure how yet we were going to propose to our residential clients. But then things happened to propose them for us. It all just kind of fell together. So next year is going to be the year that you really see manufacturers offer solid solutions that are all inclusive, because right now none of them are all inclusive. Some will watch this portion, some will watch that portion, some will do IP tracking, some will do Wi-Fi analytics, but you pretty much got to stick like 4 products in just to kind of get the entire piece and then get the cloud services on there. 2018, manufacturers and home technology professionals alike are going to start looking at that, and they're going to look for that option they can offer their clients. Because like the thing in AVNation, they put out the thing about insurance for cybersecurity, protecting your company. Next year, those two pieces are going to come together. 2018 is going to be a year of securing the house, without a doubt. And the only other last thing I can say is do it yourself, do it for me, do it with me. I'm too lazy, please do it. Those things are all going to come to a head in 2018, because if you look at the stuff that happened at CEDIA and then what is happening at CES, which is really, really unique, and some of the IoT products that are going to be, announced and showed at the show, is there's a lot of onesie. I've got like some of them on my desk. There's a lot of onesie, twosie pieces that are amazing. And they're geared towards, if you actually look at them, they're geared towards our clients. But none of these guys play with any of the systems we use, whether it be, the RTI with Steven, the Crestron with we're kind of back in with, and then Control 4. They don't talk yet. Those manufacturers are going to see it this year. We're going to see some of these really cool devices that do biometric reading inside room for person recognition. Amazing, by the way. I'm not gonna name drop that product, but tying that into a home system is going to be magical. 2018 is going to be the year that these IoT devices realize that the average client they're selling to is not the tier that buys at Home Depot, Office Max, Best Buy. They're another tier, and they're going to start realizing that to get their product really out there, they need to start looking towards the professional market. And that is kind of one of the big ones for this year. So my 3 are, once again, voice, cybersecurity, and the real put together of all the do-its. All of those together. Those are kind of my big 3.
I love all the do-its.
All the do-its.
All the do-its.
All the do-its.
Just do
the
it.
do-its.
Nike had it right.
We're not using
2
that.
decades ago.
I'm not paying for that licensing.
That is true.
We're not using that. Nice try, though.
I know.
Jeremy, this is, you follow, obviously, this as much, if not more, than all of us combined as the senior content manager.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that for Resi Systems. You're obviously writing about it. You're joining us on shows like this and talking about it from multiple perspectives. Beyond what the other 3 gentlemen have mentioned, what did they miss? Or what did you see that we did not give enough credence to this year?
Well, the way I went about this process was looking back on the 12 print editions of our magazine and trying to remind myself what happened in a year, because years run together and months run together. And I a lot of these trends were definitely things I thought of in sort of a broader sense. Then I looked at the individual stories, and some of the individual stories that I noticed were acquisitions that we haven't discussed here that have made somewhat of an impact on the industry. I don't know if we'll be able to comment right now on what they mean so far, but eventually maybe they will. And it's going toward that eventual future that I see of CEDIA being about 5 big giant booths on the floor of collaborations of companies. But Control 4 acquired Triad. That was, kind of a big news story to me. One of these independent brands that got gobbled up, and Control 4 looking to diversify itself, it looked like, and then as what it looked like as a counterpunch, Savant doing the Artisan acquisition. And so those are two that you saw sort of an impact on the show floor when you went to CEDIA in September. Vanco resuscitated Beale Street, which it's a small audio brand, but it's still one of those things that you saw kind of disappear briefly, and then it came back into the space. And a big one that I had forgotten about, that it's right there, it's Sound United acquiring D&M. Another where you just see that brand getting bigger with more influence and that sort of thing. And other things were just stabilization. Like RTI getting a new CEO, Ed McConaughey, really seems to have gotten that company back in a growth kind of mode, getting a lot of their R&D figured out, a lot of projects that the engineers just kind of kept going for a while. And now he's saying, let's get these things finished. We can always do updates on stuff, but we need to get some products shipped. And so I really respect what he's been doing since John Dembski passed away, the founder, and they were left a little rudderless there for a bit. And then Crestron, it's weird to not see them at CEDIA still to this day, but I was able to attend their dealer events for the first time. It's their second one, but second year they've been doing it. And it's just amazing how much investment, as big as they are on the commercial side, how much they're continuing to invest in Resi. I'm not going to be a cynic anymore about their support for this channel. I mean, they really were, full steam ahead with new products there just a month ago when I saw them. Other stuff that I kind of wrote down, there's this brand called Luxon that's kind of creeping up a little bit on the smart home side, that they're going to quietly find their way into some market share, I think. They're second to Control 4 in Europe, I think, in terms of the smart home. And they started off with just the smart home approach, not doing any AV, really keeping it Scandinavian, very, very sleek. And I think, they're not going to do trade shows, which, kind of stinks, because we, as a publishing company, a lot of where we get our resources are from trade show advertising and things like that. And there's a company that sort of says, we don't really need any of that. We're going to do this thing from a grassroots level. Kind of makes me cringe a little bit. I do like where they're coming from. I like their products, and I've seen some in action here in my market, actually, and some homes, live product demos. And so there's quietly a company, a brand there that just kind of want to keep an eye on. And last but not least, the one we haven't mentioned that I think was probably one of the bigger news stories, at least for us in our insular world. Maybe most people in the field don't care, but the Vin Bruno story was a big story. As much as you say all the good stuff about CEDIA, that was a bit of a weird one for a while, and we remiss not to mention it. Life goes on, and Vin is continuing to do his thing, and CEDIA is doing well, and now we're back to being CEDIA Expo, which was weird because that was such a big deal when we changed branding. And meet with Emerald, and they say we're CEDIA Expo again. I'm like, okay, sure. Most of the PR people never caught on anyway. Half my press releases were still CEDIA Expo. So we're back to the old-fashioned way of saying it, and
which I'm happy about. So.
It's hard to say CEDIA the show or the CEDIA show. It was a little too much, too clever for its own good or something. I don't know.
Does that mean we won't have 50 more billboards of Mark Rontaveros walking around saying I am CEDIA? So.
Well, he's CEDIA, and
I gotta get a knock on Mark on that one.
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily let the Vin Bruno thing I think the biggest issue with that was there was no information.
Oh,
So,
I know. Yeah. And trust me, we still don't know a lot. And
we're all business owners and we understand we have limited resources. And I really want to know because I think that you would be hard pressed to find a lot of people that didn't like it.
right. Yeah.
I mean, I understand that some of the people that he worked with closely at CEDIA didn't necessarily care for him, but I think that as an industry, we loved it. He was the first CEDIA leader to be actively participating in the CEDIA community, on their CEDIA community forums. So I don't know what it's called, CEDIA community. It's just the CEDIA community forum. So whenever I saw him on there, I was like, that's the guy I want to, that's the guy I want to follow. And I've talked to him a few times in private chat, and I was really taken aback by it, and I got the feeling he was too. So I think that I think that it's important you bring that up because everything's not roses and unicorns. We did have a couple of bumps on the way this year, but I would say that it would be nice to get some closure to that story. Even if it's not a full public disclosure, just say, okay, guys, this is kind of what went down. Everything's still under non-disclosure, but let's put a close to it. But I think most people have let it go because there was no reason to chase the story because you weren't going to get any answer. I chased it as far as I could chase it, and then I was like, you know what? I've got other stuff to do. I got bills to pay. So I think that Ben is an extremely good addition for his time here, and I wish him the absolute best. He was very involved with the membership, and I look forward to seeing if those that are in charge are still involved. I can say that there are some people that are in leadership at CEDIA, be it on the board or whatever, that don't seem to care until something looks like it may go wrong. I like a leader that's involved all the time. So hopefully they'll take that in advisement and those kind of opinions, because I know they're pretty common. But I tell you, this year was, and maybe I missed it, did you mention the Harman acquisition of Samsung?
I was waiting for Jeremy to mention that because to me, the Harman JBL grabbing Samsung. So you take that, right? And it's funny. I just had a conversation with David Humphreys and Tabitha O'Connor at CEDIA not but 2 days ago about this, because it goes back to some of the CEDIA attitude with Samsung. Take it back to the last year in Denver. There was some stuff. We'll just put it that way. There was some stuff going on. That acquisition alone has made a entire about face of that company. Well, I mean, you're going to see Samsung participating with CEDIA on a level never seen before, ever.
Did you see that they released? I talked to them at CEDIA this year. It was like a big deal. It was part of their booth. They were releasing all their APIs for the control companies to have direct IP control. Up until, 4 months before CEDIA, they swore that would never happen because they had their own operating system. This will never happen. And now it's happening. But now on the flip side of that, now we've got rumors, and you know how rumors are. They're mostly garbage. But, we missed to not mention the fact that there's rumors that Harman may be selling off parts or that Samsung may be selling off parts of Harman. But the thing is that Samsung,
like AMX.
Oh, well, yeah. I wasn't gonna.
I had to do it. Come on, I had to do it.
I wasn't gonna. You know what? I used to give brands a hard time, but the truth is we all make money with the brands that we support. So, but yeah, I think that AMX. I think we may see an AMX exit, and I think that there may be some other smaller brands in the Harman line that we may see either eaten by the larger names. It wouldn't surprise me if within a couple of years we no longer had a BSS.
So I'll start a rumor. I'll start a rumor for you. You just said rumor
shocked.
Samsung.
I'm shocked that you'll start a rumor, Joe.
That somehow or some way, even though there's a lot of the stuff that's already been, announced about Business Exchange, I'm going to start a rumor that somehow, some way, Samsung is going to be involved in CEDIA Business Exchange this year in kind of a really neat and intriguing way. Something you haven't seen before in management conferences. I'm just going to start that rumor now.
Well, I do think it's interesting that you guys brought that up, because as somebody who watches both sides of the industry, the commercial and the residential, we didn't give a lot of credence to the residential side of that acquisition, because Harman, yes, they play in the residential space, but they're not arguably one of the bigger players.
Right.
They're big in high end, and they're big in some of the
Automotive?
Well, definitely automotive, but specifically in the resi space, it's mainly some of their ultra high end stuff, and then their Harman Kardon Future Shop-ish line. That's stuff that's slightly overlooked, but the acquisition brings the potential for Samsung to be, just as you mentioned, Joe, even more involved in our channel.
That's a big thing. Steven, how many Samsung IP controlled TVs are there now?
None.
And that is the common answer. The correct question, how many IP controlled Samsung TVs are there now, is the entire line down to the 32-inch.
Oh, yeah, the API is there.
Yeah.
And they're releasing, I'm sorry, I missed your question. Yes, the API is there. Everything can be controlled over IP because they have an
That is huge. That is huge.
It is huge.
He took off his hat. He missed part of that.
Oh, okay.
and just because I'm the fact checker in the group here, that acquisition was technically in 2016, but you're seeing the effects in 2017. So that's still a story.
Just have to kill it for us, don't you?
Well, I was just going back through my research in my brain. I was like, how did I miss that? But I remember talking about to the Harman folks at CES about that.
Okay. For some reason, I thought.
I think it might have just been at the end of 2016.
It was at the end of 2016, and I don't think that it was publicly pushed into our space as something notable until early 2017, which was right after it was right around 2017 CES.
And anyone watching this, if you want a good laugh, go back and pull the AVNation from when Matt and Tim spun that news on me. It's kind of humorous. I didn't realize going into the show that had happened. And for those that haven't had a chance to talk to me, I am huge Harman. I love the Harman lines. Good Lord, man. I use them in commercial, residential, anywhere I can. I had no clue that Samsung had bought them, and I'm not a huge fan of Samsung. So when I got that news, it was very interesting. They got a big kick out of it. So
it's funny you bring that up, because I had totally forgotten that. And when you said that, we found out at like 11 a.m. that had come down, and we promptly dropped it on Steven for fun. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to stop us there. Otherwise, we'll just keep going, because that's the kind of people we are. Thanks again for not only joining me today, but joining us on every podcast that you guys make time for. We greatly appreciate it. And it's not so much us that makes AVNation what it is. It's all of you guys. So from the bottom of my heart and probably the bottom of Tim's as well, thank you so much. And everybody here at AVNation, we really appreciate it. You guys make us awesome. Steven, if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
You can find me at ProAudio_GA on Twitter. ProAudioGeorgia.com. I'm pretty easy to find. If you type in Stephen Bronner, I'll pop up just about everywhere. I would like to get about 10 seconds, though, for all of you that are enjoying a very lucrative and very business-friendly atmosphere right now. My challenge to you in 2018 is to find a charity. Find a group that needs your help. I'm doing a project this year with Wounded Warriors and another project with Lone Survivor. I invite you to find a charity. Don't sit back and just soak up the success and not share your wealth. Find a charity, find a group. You can find somebody, whether it's kids, pregnant teenagers, a church. Find somewhere that can really use your services and give them, because to those much is given, much is expected. So I always say that. So I'll end with that.
Very good. Very good sentiment for this time of year. Uncle Richie, thanks again for joining us. You always make time for us, and I appreciate it. How are you, my friend?
Just glad to be able to end the year with you guys. So
Aww.
what better group to spend it with? Notwithstanding not having Tim and some of the others here, but then we would have like a 16 by 16 grid, and nobody would talk. So
exactly. If people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
You can find me on the Twitters at rfragosa. You can find me at Fragosa Design. You can type in my name, and obviously things show up on the interwebs. But also you can find me here, ResiWeek, or either on AVWeek, and also with my good friend Steve Greenblatt on A State of Control.
Very good. Thanks again. Joe, you've become a really close friend, which sometimes I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Usually, mostly good.
Depends on the time of day.
Totally depends on time of day.
It definitely shows a lack of good character judgment.
On my part or Joe's?
Joe's.
Joe, where can people connect with you?
They can always find me on CEPRO or at CEDIA. You can find us on social media, just using at Thoughtful Home or The Thoughtful Home. And you can always email me directly, joe@thethoughtfulhome.com. As we move into 2018, I do want to say to all those non-members, prior members of CEDIA, 2018 is the year to get back involved, whether you're an emerging company, a sustainable company, or the top 1%ers, and you're no longer a member. 2018 is going to be the year that CEDIA will be able to positively affect your business from top to bottom. The programs coming out and everything else. Come back to CEDIA or join CEDIA if you haven't joined. This year is the year to do it.
Come back to the family.
Come back to the family.
The family. Mr. Glowacki, thank you so much for being here. Always appreciate your time. If people want to connect with you, find out more about Resi Systems, where can they do that?
They can come to residentialsystems.com and see our redesigned website, which is, finally into the 21st century. And watch for me on Twitter, ResiSys, SYS. I tweet sometimes when I have to. And feel free to drop me an email if you want to from the website.
Very good.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, very, very good sentiment. Again, for myself, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. And to our viewers, again, thank you so much for helping us have a successful year. We're happy to do this and love connecting with all of you. So thanks again so much. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.